All right, let's get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me and you should be able to see the screen. So it's great to have so many of you here with us here as we kick off our Raising Seed Capital information session. My name is Jake Dooley. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm a pre-deployment manager here at LocalVest. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the wider market for raising capital. And then we're going to talk a little bit about your company and actually have some interactive time that we can talk about where you all are in the journey to raise capital. And then we'll talk some more about this course that we have that can help you move further on your journey to raising capital as soon as possible. What I have on the screen now is a chart from Crunchbase. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Crunchbase. What they do is they take a lot of data that startups have from the earliest stages all the way to the last stages, and they aggregate all the data. And then over time, you can see how things are going from the results. They just published something the first week of October that would capture data from even from the third quarter of this year. So the one that ended September 30th. There's a few takeaways that I get from this chart when I look at it. So one is the easier money of 2021 has really evaporated. It's pretty much gone across all categories. So if you see from angel and seed, early stage, late stage, and some of the technology growth, it's just really all trickled off there, going from the last quarter and this quarter. In fact, the second quarter to the third quarter was down 33%. And the year over year change from this time last year in 21 was down 53%. As I said, it's technology agnostic, company agnostic. It is just pretty much down in everything. The thing that is interesting that goes with this information is I talked to some venture capitalists and some other fund managers, and they validated this information. And the way that they said it to me last week was the A pluses are continuing to get funded. So if your company is perfect, essentially, right, you have everything in line, you're meeting all the metrics that you had from the last time you went out to raise, you have a great story, you're going for, shooting for the moon, you're going to get funded. They will continue to get funded. They will always be funded. If you're A or below, then it's going to be harder. And the thing that stuck with me is like, my goodness, A is, well, that's still a good company. You're saying it's going to be harder. And he said, yes, it's going to continue to be harder for you. You're just going to have to work harder to get the capital that's out there. There's money out there, but it's just going to take longer to get it. And you're going to have to talk to way more people. And so the other key takeaway from me is like, you have got to be ready in this market that we're facing. They are going to be way less forgiving if you have confusing financials, if your pitch deck is sloppy, you give some red flag off to one of the investors, you know what, I'm just not going to mess with this company. I'll move on to the next one. They're going to be way more discerning. So you have to be way better prepared. So the way I put it is fortune is favoring the prepared. And it looks like that's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. So you have to get ready. And so what I wanted to do here is talk about what we see at LocalVest as companies come in. So we have a lot of discovery calls. If one of you clicks on a social media post on the platform and you schedule a call and you do a call with one of us, we start asking a lot of questions. We get a lot of these that come in, and I will tell you just a large number of companies are not ready to raise. And they really fall into four buckets, or we call four pillars here. So of course, you have to have a great business. So that foundation that you see at the bottom, you got to have a great company with a great mission, great founders. I'm going to assume all those things apply to you, right? But then you have to have these other four things in order to be ready to raise. So if I go from left to right, you have to be legal to raise. And I don't mean, yes, I have an LLC or I'm incorporated, right? When I'm talking about, if you're going to go do a raise, you have to actually have an entity in place that fits that type of raise. The SEC has requirements, says if you are going to generally solicit and go out, you have to do something different than if you were going to talk to your friends and family or do a joint venture. And there's all these things that have to be done in the middle. And if you don't have those things set up, then you're not going to be able to legally raise and they could shut you down. So you got to have that. How much in the financial instruments? This is asking the question, do you know what your budget looks like, your KPIs, your burn rate? But then if you take that today and you model it all the way out, and you say, this is where I need to be sufficient and actually raising enough money internally with revenue that I don't need to do further raises. How many times do I need to do a raise? And each time that I do those raises, what instrument do I use? Do I use a safe? Do I use a convertible note? When do I start doing priced rounds? If I have to give employee options, which you probably will, how do they fit in the picture? And the things that you do on the first time you raise become important for the later rounds so that you don't end up giving away way too much of your company way too early. And so having all that shown and then being able to model it and put it into a presentation becomes really important. The third one is your ability to sell, or you could just call it the pitch. So all of your promotion materials, a lot of it go in video and the presentation, but does it tell your story the right way? Does it have the information that everybody needs? Does it have too much information? Is it confusing to somebody? The fourth thing is investor interactions. So you have a pitch. How do you find the investors to give the pitch to? What do you do when you're in the room actually giving the pitch? And then when that pitch is complete, what are the right things to do to have the best chance of getting to a close? And those are important for every single one of those steps. And they may be different from an angel investor to going for venture capital in the way that you approach. So you need all four of these, we call them the pillars to raise capital. If you don't have one of them, you're going to struggle. It is not a guarantee that if all of these things are in place on a great business foundation, you will get capital, but you stand the best of a chance of going out and raising. So as companies are coming in, we keep finding they have struggles with one of these pillars. And so what I wanted to do here is let's see where you are. So Laura, what I want to do here if you could pull up, what we have is some polls. Laura's going to pull up, we're going to do a poll for each of the pillars and just ask yourself these questions. So if you look on the screen here, the first one, right, is the legal and regulatory. So when it comes to legal and regulatory, where do you put yourself? Now, when you fill these in, by the way, and submit, no one's going to see individually where you are. We have it recorded, but the whole group isn't. But we are going to look at it aggregated here in about 30 seconds or so. So go ahead and say, where is your company when it comes to legal and regulatory? Okay, Laura, go ahead and close it out there. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. So it's actually layered from top to bottom, or, so essentially the bottom part of the pyramid or of the pillar is set up, and then you go all the way up to the top, with the top one being the best. You are ready to go and everything is set. So most of you are sitting there in that middle range, which is set up that you're saying that a good chunk of you have a general idea of what you need to do, or maybe know very little at all and have lots of questions when it comes down to it. So that's good. That's okay. All right, let's go to the next one. So if you open up number 2, which talks about the financial side of things. So take about 30 seconds to do that. Okay, Laura, let's see how this one turns out. Okay, very interesting. A more barbell approach here, but a lot of you are saying you need capital, but what it does to the cap tables and how it affects your ownership stake changes. But a third of you say you got a good grip on that one. That's good. That's good to see. All right, let's go to the third one. And this is about your pitch. So how well do you think you have your pitch together? All right. Okay. I think the important thing here is most of you have pitch materials. I think the interesting part of it is having those pitch materials reviewed by people, and only about, what is that, 4 out of 22 of you are saying that you have pitch deck materials ready to go and have them reviewed. All right, let's do the last one, which is interacting with investors. All right, I think that's enough time in there to close that one out. So how does that one turn out, Laura? All right, some of you met with none, but you need a few more investors is where most people lie in there. Okay, all right, great. So hopefully that gives you a better view on where you stand. I think when you talk about the 4 pillars, if you think, some of you may say, well, I feel pretty good about 1 or 2 of them. A couple of them are weak, but my guess is that most of you don't have almost anybody in this thing, I bet, is not going to be at a point where they're completely ready and say, I'm at the top and that's why you're here. Some of you, just a small handful of you, may say, I'm very far behind. I need to work on all of them. But a good number of you probably have a grip of some, but then are asking a lot of questions about others. But even the ones that you're good about, you may be saying, well, I wouldn't mind having some more time there. And that is okay. It's very common. And that's what we're all about. In fact, that's the whole point of having the course. So let's talk some more about what we're talking about doing in the Raising Seed Capital course. So this is a cohort-based system. We're going to have a max of 10 people in the class. We really want to make sure that those of you who come in can spend the time and get the resources that you need to be ready to raise capital. Our format is we are going to take those 4 pillars, those 4 topics, and they are going to become 4 modules. Each module will have a pre-recorded material and will provide a lot of details, templates, information for you to be able to see. It will all be recorded for you ahead of the session. And then we're going to have live sessions with industry experts. So for those of you who were here earlier in the month and we had Max Moyer come in from Triumph Law, he is going to come in and go into greater detail than what he went in before. We're going to have a fractional CFO. We're going to have some angel investors and VC fund members who are going to come in and help hone your pitch, tell you all the do's and don'ts with going about interacting with them as investors. And then you will have time after those live sessions to have one-on-one sessions with those people to work on your company, right? To work on the things that you need to work on. If you really need to deep dive on something and it is just, well, completely broken, to be honest with you, if that's where you are, that is okay. They will have the resources to say, this is what you need to go work on, and you can dive way deeper on it. We're going to be meeting every 2 weeks on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully that gets enough people to go during the lunch times during those Thursdays. So November 3rd, November 17th, December 1st, and December 15th. That helps us avoid the Thanksgiving break. And then we end up finishing up before the holiday season at the end of the year. So here's all of the things that you get. As I mentioned, upper left-hand corner, we're going to have hours of recording, training information. It's going to be saved. You're going to be able to go back to it, download it, do whatever you need to do. You're going to have the calls every 2 weeks with the full group, and you are going to be able to ask all those experts the questions that you want to ask them as you get ready to raise. But then you're going to have one-on-one advising sessions with them, and you're going to go in as much detail as you need, and you'll drill down if you really need to work on something. Like I say, I need to work on my entity, then you'll be able to do that with Max and go further. We are going to take your pitch. We are going to do a full review of it. All those people are going to be able to give you feedback, rip the thing apart. This was good. This was bad. I don't understand what it was. You'll be able to go and do all of that, and we'll end up with a pitch deck that's much better and ready to go. We'll give you training on how the Local Best platform works. There's a lot of free things in there that you may not know about that you can use. And if you need other resources, we can show you how to do that. And then there'll also be consultations. If there are things that are not covered in the course and you really need to understand what's going on, you have the opportunity to ask us there. The other thing I want to talk about is 10x bets. Laura, if you could put the last poll up, I just want to get a view of this for everybody before we go, is your familiarity with 10x bets and how it works. So Laura, if you're there and can pull that up. And what you're doing it, so like Otto and Terry, you're saying you can't see. Okay, did we get it switched so that we can go? Looks like it. Okay, and then Laura, you can switch off of that one to close out the poll. We can see the results there. No, not a lot. Okay, well, that's good. I go in a little bit more detail here. So 10x Vets, it's not part of the same group. A lot of the same members of Local Vest are part of 10x Vets. It's actually run by a Naval Academy classmate of mine. It's a group of about 200 veterans. You do not need to be an officer. You do not need to be in a certain branch. You just have to be affiliated as a veteran. And we get together and we work to 10x your organization, whatever it happens to be. So as I said, there's about 200 people. Like we just had a community meeting this afternoon at lunchtime, and we talk through different areas that have to do with 10xing. Like today we were talking about what is your genus, and we talked about protecting IP that way. But the topics are varied. The other thing that we do though is there are circles. And so those are like smaller groups of those 200 that talk about topics. So there's one on government consulting and how to win government contracts. There's one on raising capital. There is one on digital marketing. There's one on real estate. There's a healthcare one. And these are just groups of people within that 200, and they dig down on a topic, and they're really neat, and they all get recorded. So if you can't make a particular session, you can go back and listen. But what I use it for as a member is I go in, and if I have a question, there's usually someone who has either done it, they have a recommendation on someone to help them out with whatever that is. You just name it. It's just your group of people that you can ask a question and not feel stupid about it. So it's well worth it to be a part of these groups. 10x Vets is a great one. That's one that I recommend, but really any group that you can meet and talk with people and ask for advice without feeling like you're going to get in trouble for it or someone's trying to pitch something to you. So those of you who are not part of 10x Vets, you're going to get 10x Vets free for 3 months. You can go and join. And this is more valuable than just going out and trying to raise capital. I cannot recommend it enough. So get into the network. You'll be able to do that. You can ask any questions you want. You'll probably want to stay after you're finished raising to ask other questions as well. That for 3 months has about a $750 value. So I encourage you to go in there. In fact, at the end of the course in January, there's going to be a 10x Vets meetup in Cape Coral, Florida. They're opening up the Westin there again, actually, I think at the end of this month. So we're all going to get together and be able to meet up and just talk about the way that our businesses are going. The last thing that we're going to do as well, though, as a benefit, is you can apply your full tuition to a Local Vest package. So if you want help with promotion, you want to use Local Vest services, you're already thinking about doing it, and you just need some more help, all the tuition that you pay goes towards it as a credit for whatever package that you want to do. So the tuition is $1,600. That's just $400 for each of those sessions, right? And all the benefits you see here, I think you'll agree, you'll get a lot of value out of doing it. If you're already a 10x Vet member, since you have that added, you can have $1,100 is what it will cost to do that. So $1,600 or $1,100. Now, the last thing that I want to share with you, hold on for a second. The last thing I want to share with you is our 100% guarantee. So at Local Vest, we're about connecting veterans who need capital with investors who want to see you succeed. They want to invest in you. And the whole point of this course is to take those of you who have come in at discovery calls and are missing something, you want to get this done. You want to be prepared in front of investors, legally ready to raise capital. And if you complete this course, you put in the work, and you still don't think that it was worth the value, I'll be more than happy to give you a full refund. I want you to be ready to raise capital. I believe this course can do it. I know this course can do it. Those elements of the 4 pillars are the things that you need to be able to be ready to raise capital. And so I hope that you'll be able to join us. So I will, in summary, what I would tell you is we can see that the market is tightening. The venture capitalists that I talk to, the angel investors, see they're being way more cautious. They're asking a lot more questions, and you need to prepare more than you ever thought that you needed to prepare to be able to raise capital. It will be harder. This course will get you ready in the shortest time possible. Yes, you can do it a lot of different ways, but if you're saying, what do I do with this last 2 months of 22 while things are a little bit iffy? How do I get ready so that I can be ready to raise right at the beginning of the year? This course can do it. And with the other added benefits that you have in there and the 10x bets and applying it towards local vest, it's a good value for you to be able to reach those goals. So we're coming towards the end here. I don't want to take too much of your time when it comes to this information session, but I'm going to be sending an email with the recording. It's going to have links. If you're ready to sign up, great. We are ready to have you join us. If you still have individual questions that you want to ask, there'll be a way that you can schedule time with me and you can ask it. There's some time for tomorrow and the early part of next week. Remember, I'm going to cap it at 10 members for the overall cohort. So if you miss that one, then we'll stretch to the next one the next time we do it in early 2023. But if you have those questions, do ask them. That is okay. So I'm going to end the session for now. If you do have, I stick around a few more minutes. I'll look in the chat. If you have some questions, I can answer those for the whole group. But if those of you are busy and need to go, I'll stop here at the half-hour point. So for those of you who need to go, have a great rest of your day. I wish you the best on your journey to raise capital. And I do hope you join us when it comes to the Raise and Seed Capital course. So let me go over to the questions here. If there are any, looks like we're okay. All right, then I will go ahead and I'm going to end this session. Look for the email. If you do have questions, schedule time, or I look forward to having you join us on November 3rd.